Hello everyone and everything, all bloody 1,000 of ya. Oh my god, today we're gonna be doing exactly what it says on the tin, celebrating 4 figures. Lordy! By making a quick tier list of all the Sly Cooper levels. This is gonna be like a bite-sized game breakdown for all 29 levels in the franchise. Kinda. Mostly we're just having fun celebrating that 10 cubed is a great big number, and I'm mighty excited about that if I do say so myself. So right off the bat, I'm noticing that none of the tutorial levels are here, and I guess that's fair. It's hard to judge them on the same merits as the big levels, though at the same time, it's hard to judge any of the 4 games on the same merits as the others, so you know what? Give me a sec. Ah, beautiful. It's not perfect, but who cares? We're just vibing here. So let's dive on in, starting off with Police HQ Break-In. Tutorials are hard to get right. You've got a lot to convey to the player, and unless they have no other options, them losing interest is a very real concern. So you've got to deliver a hook, convey the story, but also not talk their ear off. I think Bentley can make a bit of a poor first impression, but once you've got control, I reckon this is pretty good. The laser grid and Carmelita chase, the very first animated cutscene, is a good first impression. I don't want to go too easy though, because I've given myself a lot of tiers here. Let's just put that in C, and that'll be our baseline. Tide of Terror. Honestly, this is definitely a big part of why I always come back to Sly 1, even though Sly 2 and 3 are just generally superior games. The intro nails a lot of what makes Sly fun, with some of my favorite levels in the game, like Cunning Disguise and High Class Heist. Weak points though, you know, the crab level, Into the Machine is way longer than it should be. Let's not quibble too long. I'm thinking B tier. Sunset Snake Eyes. It's a tough call, but I'm definitely thinking this is my favorite episode in Sly 1. There's a lot of nostalgia in that choice for sure. I remember playing around in the alleyways and rooftops, dropping cars on people, destroying slot machines. I'm also just a sucker for the hotel casino setting, and this level does a lot with that. I actually don't think the minigames are too bad either. Plus, Mugshot is just a ton of fun to have on screen. Put it in A tier. Vicious Voodoo. Honestly, I think this gets A tier based on the boss fight alone, right? And I love some of the levels, like Lair of the Beast and Descent into Danger. Actually, those are the only levels I like. I've also got the chicken one and the piranha one, and this whole level feels like a steep difficulty spike for a lot of the wrong reasons. Alright, top of B tier. Fire in the Sky. Oh, that's A tier, come on. This is the best in platforming challenges Sly 1 has to offer. Flaming Temple of Flame and Unseen Foe being the real highlights for me. And the Murray minigames are actually pretty good, since they're built on skills we've already had some practice on. Yeah, I'm good with A. Cold Heart of Hate. This one's tricky. You've got to account for the story at this point being really fun. The opening and closing cutscenes are the best in the game, easily, but this level is super dragged down by being almost all minigames. Bentley Comes Through is a really strong one, but the rest are... They're not. They're just not. So where's that put us? I think that might actually get bottom of B? That doesn't feel right. Above Tide of Terror, maybe? Screw it, we're moving on. I have too many thousands of subscribers to worry about that. I have 1,000 of subscribers, which is still too many. Let's frickin' go. Sly 2, kicking off with A Shadow from the Past. This is easily my favorite of the tutorial levels, but it's still held back by being a tutorial level. Very handholdy, very linear, which is what you want from a tutorial, but it's not gonna stand out among the proper episodes. Bottom of B, I think is fair. Black Chateau. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna need more wiggle room in the upper tiers. We're in the big leagues now. Let me shift everything around real quick. There we go. Don't worry about it. When you're dealing with a big shot like me, you've got to be ready to roll with the changes. Now, Black Chateau. This is easily a step above everything in Sly 1. The new format fits Sly like a glove, and it doesn't look back. The Paris rooftops just feel like Sly's element, and you gotta give it up for Dimitri. A tier, easily. Starry-Eyed Encounter? Even better. Still A tier, I'm thinking, but I'm gonna surprise myself if anything passes that without being an S tier. Sly dancing with the cops is the narrative highlight of the whole game. Exploring the palace is super fun, especially the guest house. Oh, it's so good. Predator Awakes. Now, just like Vicious Voodoo, this is a sudden difficulty spike in the game, but unlike then, I don't think it's for the wrong reasons. Specifically, this is where the core gameplay loop of navigation gets escalated, rather than the game just throwing tougher minigames at you. So I think I like this one a lot more than other people do. I especially love how vertical the map is with the jungle canopy. Come on, that's just good stuff. Still though, I think I've got to put it in the top of B tier, just because the terrain can often be more confusing than fun, and none of the exact missions really stick out in my mind as highlights. Traumatic, yes, but not highlights. Jailbreak, what are we even talking about? Put it in S tier. You know where it goes. You want to know why it's great? I don't have enough time here. Check out this video. Tangled Web. Okay, I think this one actually sneaks into S tier too, which might be a hot take. To me, it rides the narrative high of Jailbreak, but this time, level design is my favorite in the game. Swinging and climbing around the castle is just exciting. You've got the war waging on around you, getting hit off the towers by planes, it's freaking cool. The Contessa and Carmelita's dynamic is fun to have on screen. Yeah, I've convinced myself, this definitely gets S tier. He Who Tames the Iron Horse. I mentioned in my video on it, I actually see this one gets placed pretty low on most people's tier lists, and while I'd love to be a contrarian, I think this is the first Sly 2 level that finds itself in the company of Sly 1 levels. I'm definitely not saying it's bad, but honestly the train robberies just are basically Sly 1 missions, and the wide open snowfields of Canada aren't particularly fun to run around in. B tier, right above Fire in the Sky, I'd say. Hey, that's still respectable, just like the number 1K is pretty respectable. I gotta say, y'all are a bunch of gentlemen and scholars. Menace from the North, A. Just for that title, this one gets C tier. No, I do think this one's gonna find itself in B tier though. A lot of why I love this level is all down to the twist at the end, and while it does have a couple of standout missions, it has a lot of pretty slow ones too, especially by the standards we're used to by this point of the game. Right here feels good. Anatomy for Disaster. This feels weird. I actually got to 1,000 subscribers a lot faster than I was anticipating, and I was planning on making this video after I was done with Sly 2. As of this being posted, I'm between episodes 7 and 8 though, so I feel kinda like I'm spoiling something. But whatever. For the 10 of you out there who are experiencing Sly for the first time through my videos, from here on there be spoilers. Sly 2's finale is definitely a highlight. I don't think it quite hits S tier though. And I'd say that's entirely down to the final boss being a turret fight rather than a challenge of any of our more refined skills. But honestly, I don't know how else you're meant to fight a big bird, so having it be a callback to our first fight with him is alright with me. Okay, on to Sly 3. Now I haven't recorded any footage for this game or Thieves in time, so in the spirit of Sly Cooper, I'm gonna have to borrow someone else's. Starting off with Beginning of the End. I think this is gonna find itself next to Police HQ Break-In. I actually don't love the trope of starting at the climax and rewinding to the beginning of the story. It feels kinda like cheating. Like you need to hook your audience in, so you just show them the best part of the story first. And then that can't help but take the wind out of the sails when you finally get there the long way. No pun intended. The shadowy Binocucom figures also feel a bit forced, especially since one of them is literally Murray. Like, yeah, this gets D tier. I'm still gonna put it above Police HQ just cause the dialogue and platforming are a lot more fun. An Opera of Fear is interesting. It's deliberately emulating the likes of Black Chateau. It wants us in that comfort zone of Sly 2, but it always felt to me like if it were a level in Sly 2, it'd be one of my least favorites. Exploring Venice doesn't really hit the same heights as Paris or Prague, but I think it still lands above Iron Horse, if only because of the spaghetti.
Mama's making spaghetti tonight and I'm starving. I'm gonna eat like 4 plates of food. Mamma mia, I want to be buried in her sauce. It's heaven.
Rumble Down Under. Yeah, this is most people's least favorite level in Sly 3 for good reason. I see a lot of people put it as their least favorite in the whole trilogy actually, and yeah, fair enough. Australia doesn't really offer a lot of platforming fun. The story is kinda, well, Giant Carmelita exists. Still, I think there's enough strong writing and character moments, the likes of which Sly 1 doesn't really offer, for this not to go lower than C tier. Flight of Fancy, oh thank god. In a Sly 3 playthrough, you get past Australia and the game kicks it into high gear. Flight of Fancy is honestly my favorite level of the game. It gets S tier easily. Going undercover as a pilot, living it up in a hotel room as our safe house, the dogfight mechanics are way more fun than they have any right to be, and Penelope is genuinely my favorite character in the whole trilogy. And the twist reveal at the end, don't forget, we're still spoiling things. We're playing with the big boys, 1K is a minefield. The reveal of our main baddie in the episode being the same character we're trying to forge an alliance with is just sweet. Honestly, this one beats out Tangled Web. Yeah, there we go. A Cold Alliance. Now I've seen people put this one right next to Rumble Down Under. This is definitely the point where Sly 3 really starts moving away from being like Sly 2. The levels aren't focused on Sly and his little gang anymore. Instead we start to focus a lot more on the new characters around him, especially the Panda King and our new villain. If you're not willing to be flexible with these changes, I can definitely see why you'd put this one down low. However, what Sly is doing now is something it really needs to do in order to earn the ending it has. Shifting the pressure off Sly is necessary so he can complete his character arc. So I can definitely appreciate that. This gets B tier. Dead Men Tell No Tales. Now this is surprisingly great. Just like Flight of Fancy, the main gameplay gimmick ends up being way more fun than it has any right to be. In this case, the High Seas Galleon engagements. Genuinely, before the likes of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, this was some of the best ship combat you could get in a video game. Exploring tropical islands and shipwrecks and pirate forts are also just really childish fun. I think this actually sneaks its way past Starry-Eyed Encounter. Honor Among Thieves. Now here we go. When discussing this level, it's really easy to just think about the last handful of missions. The Cooper Vault in particular is the single best mission in the whole franchise. But I've also got to consider that this level does the Cold Heart of Hate thing and makes most of the missions minigames and doesn't even give us an overworld to explore. I do think that drags it down, but the strength of the ending, hell, the courage it takes to actually put a definitive end on a series like this is stunning. I couldn't possibly put this lower than A tier. I think it finds its home right here. Which of course, brings us to Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Kicking off with its tutorial mission, which is only known as Prologue. You're off to a great start here, guys. I'm actually gonna put this one all the way down here for one reason, and that is the fact that we kick off by just totally undoing the strength of Sly's arc from the trilogy. Just scribble all over that beautiful character growth with crayon. Sly doesn't get pulled into the shenanigans of a new heist to save his friends, or because he's being blackmailed, or anything like that. No, he's just an addict who's relapsing. Great, real great. Now, turning Japanese though, playing this for the first time, this actually got me pretty excited. It really did feel like playing a true next-gen Sly title. Bottles are back after being absent from the third game, the Vault Treasure is a clever reference to the first game, exploring feudal Japan under this gorgeous moonlight feels fantastic, and playing as Ryuichi Cooper, the very first ancestor we ever heard of, that's actually awesome. Even if I could do without the whole sushi aspect of his character, which I think is supposed to be funny, gameplay and writing-wise, we don't surpass anything in Sly 2. Plenty of time to go up from here. Bottom of B, I think. Go West, young raccoon. Now this is actually really cool. The Old West ends up feeling like such a natural fit for Sly. Tennessee Kid Cooper has been my favorite ancestor ever since I first learned the rail walk. So getting to play as him, and oh my god, he's OP as heck. That's what happens when you bring a gun to a cane fight, I guess. This level design is pretty slick too. I like the train rails you can ride super fast all around the map. I'd say this ends up top of B. I said top of B. Come on, there we go. Come to think of it, I think Predator Awakes is a bit better than Cold Alliance. So it was at this point in my first playthrough of Thieves in Time that I realized the first two ancestors we'd met so far were the same as the first two ancestors we'd learned about in the first game, and I thought, oh, that's a pretty elegant callback. That must mean that next we're going to ancient Egypt to play as Slight and Common. We'll get to use his crazy invisibility powers while spire jumping across obelisks and stuff, and then everything went wrong. Clan of the Cave Raccoon sucks. The premise of meeting Sly's first ancestor is really dumb. They name him Bob, which is obviously hilarious. So then, one of the major characters of this franchise that I adore for the strength of its character and writing talks in grunty caveman speak. He's also just a chore to play as, with no fun combat or traversal abilities. This is also the point of the game where Carmelita catches up with the gang, and watching her and Sly's relationship on the rocks because of all this is just anti-fun to have on screen. And when you remember how much of a joy it was to watch them flirt in the original trilogy, it hurts. It really does. We've got an entry in the F tier here. But hey, we can only go up from rock bottom. Next we got Of Mice and Mechs, and when I tell you my favorite thing about this level is the title. Oh boy. Going to Castle Age Britain and meeting Sir Galith Cooper has a ton of promise. Platforming around the castle walls and turrets, Galith is honestly a pretty fun character to have on screen. But as a means to get back at Sly for lying, Carmelita spends this episode flirting with Galith, which really hurts. Like, come on, we're really doing this Mean Girls crap? And they make his special ability the hook launch thing, but in order to make him stand out with it, rather than give him some special property, they just make Sly really worthless with it this episode. But none of that's exceptionally bad. Our villain this episode is Penelope. I gotta say, this was actually foreshadowed really well. She disappears in the first cutscene while Bentley and her are working on a time machine. And then when the main villain shows up with a time machine, you might make yourself feel clever connecting the dots and realizing it has something to do with Penelope's disappearance. Then you get to this level, and you've got a lot of parallels with Flight of Fancy. Black Baron, Black Knight, but oh my dear sweet lord above, what did they do to her character? She's not being coerced to help the villain mess with the gang, she's actually just evil, and she's mad at Bentley because she wanted to use their genius to design weapons. Why? This is such a catastrophic mishandling of the established elements. This reads like bad fan fiction. What happens next? Do Penelope and Carmelita join forces and have a steamy romance scene after they take over the world? You know what? This level doesn't even belong on this list. I am banishing it to the Shadow Realm. Yeah, that's better. Oh, it took a lot of willpower to hope we might redeem this game after that. 40 Thieves. Right off the bat, they've already misunderstood the joke of Salim Al-Kupar's character. Guys, the point was he was such a good thief that people didn't believe one guy could do what he did, and he, by himself, got the reputation of the 40 Thieves.
An ancestor said to possess the stealth of 40 thieves. No surprise then when Bentley's research revealed that this guy was a charter member of the infamous 40 Thieves.
Oh, you're just embarrassing yourselves now. Honestly, this level's not awful. I think if it were in a better game, I'd put it in like C tier, but sorry. In Sanzaro's hands, you get to sit right next to the Cave Raccoon. The last level, which also doesn't even have a title, it's just called Epilogue, isn't even a full set of missions like all the past finales. Honestly, playing as all the ancestors in one mission is a pretty good time. The final boss is nothing offensive. The Paradox doesn't really do anything Dr. M didn't do. Except, I guess, the please show mercy thing, but that's a bit cliche. Again, I'd probably be feeling more charitable if the game hadn't completely cacked the bed back there. Not to mention, if you put the work in to unlock the secret ending, you earn a cliffhanger. That might have been kinda cool if we had actually gotten the DLC Egypt level, but as it stands, it just serves as a reminder that Sanzaru shot themselves in the foot, and they left the weight of their fumble on the head of one of my favorite franchises. You know what? F tier for you, all the way down. Alright, let's make sure everything is where I want it to be. S tier's looking pretty good. I think I changed my mind. I think Starry Eye is still slightly better than Dead Men Tell No Tales. Having fire in the sky this far away from Sunset Snake Eyes doesn't feel right. They feel super close in quality in my eyes. I think I've actually got to bring this up here. Let's see, Rumble Down Under. Honestly, I think I gotta be a little kinder to Shadow from the Past. Let's switch those. Yeah, looking good. Alright, lastly, let's name the tiers. Make sure we're all on the same page for what they're all about. S tier, these are the God tier ones. The best of the best. Honestly, I think Starry Eye actually does just sneak its way across the border after I name it that. A tier, these are just dang good. Always get excited before I even start these levels. B tier, now these are a great time. This is where we start to see some levels with some stumbling points, but they don't hold the levels back too much. We're gonna call the C tier pretty good. Honestly, I'm not gonna complain too much about any of these levels. They all have points I wish I could skip, but they've still got great moments and strong foundations. D, we're gonna call these nothing special. They're not electrifying, you're just playing these ones to get to the rest of the game. Alright, so maybe there's a good reason the original tier list didn't include these. F tier, what do I go with? I could honestly just call this Sanzaru and be done with it. Let's go with disgraceful. Yeah, that's good. And of course, we do have the Shadow Realm. Everything's in order there. So, there we go. Yeah, I'd say that's how they all shake out. Honestly, I try not to be too bitter about Thieves in Time. I know some people, when they make a list like this, will just put a Thieves in Time tier at the bottom, shuffle them all down there, and then just think about the trilogy. That has a lot of merit. I think we may have slightly brought the vibe down back there, but honestly, it's okay. We'll always have these amazing games, and whether or not you think Thieves in Time deserves to even be considered canon, nothing's gonna change how much praise these games deserve. So that's my list. Obviously, this is the definitive tier list now. Nobody else's counts. Sorry, them's the rules. I get to make them up now, as established by my newly acquired 4-digit sub count. In all sincerity, thank you guys so much. Really just, wow. You're helping me live my dream right now. Yes, my dream is about yelling at Sanzaru on the internet, don't judge me. This channel is growing much faster than I anticipated, and it has been so exciting to see all of the love and positivity you guys have been sending my way with your comments. A ton of you have also been liking and sharing my videos, which is beyond helpful. So, stick around, my friends. I don't plan on going anywhere soon, and there are a lot of games for us to break down. So I'll see you in the next one.